In the quiet town of Fairgrove, nestled between old train tracks and modern ambition, stood a sleek glass building that sparkled against the morning sun. Viridian Tech Solutions was its name, a tech startup with billion-dollar dreams and a culture that worshiped speed, innovation, and image. Every morning at exactly 6 a.m., long before the espresso machines hissed or the engineers wandered in with earbuds and yesterday's ideas, an old man in a faded gray uniform walked through those doors. He didn't swipe a badge or say much. He just quietly got to work. His name was Walter. He moved through the hallways with a slow grace, wiping down handrails, changing light bulbs, sweeping corners no one else noticed. He left a fresh apple on the front desk each morning, even though no one ever said thank you. Most people didn't even know his last name. To them, he was just a janitor. But to the building, he was part of its rhythm, an unnoticed guardian in the noise of progress. Upstairs, Miles Braxton, the newly minted CEO, believed in metrics, image, and disruption. Young, driven, and meticulously dressed, Miles had taken the helm after a corporate merger and immediately began trimming what he called legacy weight. He replaced departments with AI, outsourced customer support, streamlined everything. So when he noticed Walter one Monday morning polishing a dusty old plaque in the hallway, one that read Veritas before value, he frowned. "Why is that still up?" he asked, not expecting an answer. "We're not a school. We're a tech company." A few hours later, Walter received a letter. No conversation, no handshake, just a folded page placed beside the cleaning supplies in the break room. It said his position had been eliminated, effective immediately. No one noticed him leave. No one except Clara. She was a front desk intern, barely 21, juggling college classes and night shifts. Walter had once helped her fix a jam printer when IT wouldn't come. He showed her how to reboot the company's server one weekend when the whole system crashed and no one else was around. When she saw him carrying his things out in a worn leather bag, she asked softly where he was going. He smiled gently. "Time to let the new generation shine," he said. "But you're part of this place," she replied, eyes wide with disbelief. "You help people all the time. You know this building better than anyone." Walter only nodded. "Places change. People forget. That's all right." And then he was gone. That night, in a modest second-story apartment above an old hardware store, Walter sat at a small wooden desk surrounded by dusty sketches, blueprints, circuit diagrams, software flowcharts. All of them bore the same heading: Viridian Systems, 1983. Framed photographs lined his shelf. In one, a much younger Walter stood proudly beside two other men under a banner that read, "From Vision to Viridian." Their smiles were real, their eyes full of fire. Back at Viridian headquarters, things quickly began to unravel. A critical system crashed just 3 days after Walter's departure. Data vanished. AI operations failed. Major contracts were lost. No one could identify the error. Engineers worked around the clock. But nothing made sense. The logic of the code seemed to loop back on itself, recursive, like it was hiding something. Miles, usually calm and composed, began staying late. He searched old files for answers, frustrated and desperate. One night, after hours of shouting at screens, he slammed his palm against a dented metal cabinet. It swung open, revealing a dusty binder tucked away behind years of untouched documents. The cover read, "Original Infrastructure, W. Hammond. Hammond." The name rang no bells. Clara, still reeling from Walter's sudden departure, couldn't sleep. Something about it didn't sit right. She remembered one of his many quiet sayings. Sometimes the problem isn't what's broken. It's that it was never built with love. On impulse, she logged into the internal archive and searched the name W. Hammond. What she found left her breathless. A handwritten founding document for Viridian Systems, dated 1983. 3 signatures. One of them, Walter Hammond. The janitor wasn't just a janitor. He was one of the original founders of the company. A man who, for some reason, had buried his name and spent the last decade mopping floors in the company he helped create. Clara brought the documents to Miles the next day. He refused to believe it until he saw the binder for himself. Walter's notes were meticulous, His diagrams unmatched. The early systems they still relied on bore his initials in the margins. Walter Hammond had designed the bones of Viridian. But why had he stayed in the shadows? And then came the letter. It arrived at the front desk late one evening. No stamp, no sender. Inside was a single USB drive and a note in neat handwriting. Fixing it isn't enough if you don't understand why it broke. WH. The engineers loaded the drive. It didn't just patch the system. It restructured it. It was a masterpiece. So simple, so elegant, it made their current work look childish. Yet hidden deep within the comments of the code was a final, haunting line. You built something that listens. Ask yourself, who is it listening for? Miles couldn't sleep that night. He stared at the ceiling and tried to recall where he'd heard that voice before. Not just recently, but long ago. And then a memory surfaced. A boy, barely 9, sitting in a Viridian lounge while his father met with investors. A kindly old man offering him cocoa and telling stories about machines with hearts and how the soul of code could remember kindness. That boy was him. And that man had been Walter. But Walter was gone. Days passed, then a week, until Clara received a call. Clara, the voice said softly. It was him. Walter, she gasped. Where are you? I'm where it all began. The line went dead. She looked around the office. Something was missing. The old nameplate, Veritas before value, was gone. She rushed to her computer. A new folder had appeared on the company's server. No one had uploaded it. It simply appeared. Project Halo subject files. She clicked. Inside were dozens of encrypted videos. Recordings of board meetings, private conversations, backdoor deals. It was surveillance, deep, detailed, undeniable. And one file labeled simply, Miles' biological parentage. Her hand hovered over the mouse. Did Walter know something about Miles that even Miles didn't? The screen flickered. Then the lights in the office dimmed. He was more than a janitor, more than founder. He was the last guardian of a truth buried too deep until now. What secret was Walter protecting? Why did he stay silent for so long? And what truth lies inside Project Halo? Coming soon on Shadow Truth. Project Halo, the last subject.